For years, space had been silent. Humanity had reached the stars, colonized distant worlds, and built an empire that stretched beyond the Sol system. But deep within the void, there were still mysteries left unsolved. One of them was Odin 7, a deep space probe launched centuries ago to explore the farthest reaches of the galaxy. It was never meant to return. Yet, against all logic, it had. The massive listening arrays on Lunabase were the first to detect the signal weak, distorted, but unmistakably Terran. At first, the scientists assumed it was an error, some ghost signal bouncing back through the cosmic void. But when the data was analyzed, the truth sent a chill through every expert in the field. Odin 7 was returning home, its engines dead, drifting through the darkness like a ghost ship. And it was transmitting something that had never been programmed into its system. The Terran Defense Fleet wasted no time. A recovery ship, TNS Pathfinder, was dispatched to intercept the lost probe before it entered Earth's orbit. As the crew approached, they saw the damage. Odin 7 was barely recognizable, its hull scorched and twisted as if it had passed through the heart of a dying star. Strange markings had been carved into its surface, symbols that no known species in the Galactic Council had ever used. But the most disturbing discovery was what was inside. When the ship's drone opened the probe's access hatch, they expected old data drives, radiation-burned circuits, or maybe some scientific anomalies. Instead, they found something impossible, an object that pulsed with energy, something that did not belong to humanity, or perhaps even this universe. As the drones scanned the artifact, the probe's transmission changed. A burst of coded signals flooded Pathfinder systems, shutting down their primary comms and forcing the crew to reboot manually. The encrypted data, once deciphered, revealed a series of star maps leading to a region of space that had no official record. The last known location of the probe before its disappearance was there, in a sector where no ships ever returned. But what disturbed the scientists and military analysts most wasn't the location, it was what the probe's logs revealed. The recordings showed that Odin 7 had not simply traveled into the unknown and returned. It had been taken. Something had found it, altered it, and sent it back. And now, whatever had done this, knew where humanity was. Panic spread among the top brass of the Terran Defense Fleet. The Galactic Council was alerted, and their response was swift and cold: destroy the probe immediately. The warning was clear: some things were never meant to be found. But humanity had never been good at walking away from a mystery. The Pathfinder did not follow orders. Instead, the probe was brought to a classified research station orbiting Mars, where a team of scientists and intelligence officers worked to uncover the truth. Every discovery only deepened the fear. The probe's internal systems had been rewritten by something far beyond human technology. Strange energy signatures radiated from the artifact, and for a brief moment before containment fields stabilized, every system on the station flickered as if something was reaching out. Then the disappearances began. First, a maintenance worker vanished from a secured chamber, his tools scattered on the floor, his suit left behind as if he had been erased from existence. Then, long-range observation satellites near the probe started picking up anomalies. Deep space stations along the frontier were going dark, their distress signals cutting off mid-transmission. No wreckage, no survivors, just silence. Something had followed Odin 7 home. The Terran High Command debated their next move. A final transmission from a deep space relay near the uncharted region came through. The message was brief, filled with static and broken audio, but the last words of the doomed crew sent chills through every human who heard them. They know we're here. The research station orbiting Mars was no ordinary facility. It was a high-security installation known only to top officials of the Terran Defense Fleet and the most brilliant minds in humanity. And now, it was at the center of a growing mystery. The return of Odin 7 had already sent shockwaves through the scientific community, but it was the artifact inside that truly defied logic. It pulsed with an energy unknown to human science, its surface covered in strange, shifting symbols that seemed to react whenever someone got too close. Every attempt to scan it resulted in corrupted data, and no known material on Earth matched its composition. The most unsettling part was the way it felt. Every researcher who stood near it spoke of a strange presence, an almost imperceptible hum in the air, as if the artifact itself was watching. Despite the risks, scientists continued their analysis. Dr. Elias Carter, the lead xenologist, had spent decades studying ancient alien relics, but this was different. This wasn't just an artifact, it was a message. The probe's last recorded data showed its final location before vanishing centuries ago, a set of coordinates deep in uncharted space. But Odin 7 had not simply traveled there and returned. Something had altered its systems, rewriting its navigation and implanting a new set of star maps. These maps pointed to a system that didn't appear in any galactic records, a place where no ships had returned from. The realization sent shivers through the team. This wasn't a discovery, it was an invitation. Meanwhile, strange events continued to unfold on the station. Communications experienced random blackouts, as if something was interfering with their signals. Security footage showed brief, flickering distortions in the corridors, like shadows, moving where no one was standing. Then the first crew member vanished. Technician Aria Monroe had been running diagnostics on the artifact's containment field when she simply disappeared. One moment, she was speaking to a colleague through the comms, and the next, her vitals flatlined. Her suit, tools, and even the tablet she had been holding were found exactly where she had been standing, only she was gone. A full security lockdown was ordered, but the damage had already been done. Fear spread through the station like wildfire. Monroe was not the first. She would not be the last. The artifact's energy signatures began spiking, disrupting the station's power grid. Dr. Carter and his team worked desperately to understand what was happening, but every discovery only led to more terrifying questions. The symbols on the artifact weren't static, they were changing, shifting in ways that suggested something inside was trying to communicate. The translation program struggled to make sense of the symbols, but when the first partial sentence was revealed, it left everyone speechless. We were the first. No one understood what it meant, but the implications were terrifying. Who were they? What had happened to them? The Galactic Council had always believed the oldest civilizations in the universe were the ones currently ruling the stars, but this message suggested otherwise. Humanity had uncovered something ancient, something that predated every known species. And if they were the first, then where were they now? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. A deep space outpost near the probe's last known location suddenly went dark. No distress signals, no wreckage, just silence. The defense fleet dispatched a scout vessel to investigate, but when it arrived, the station was simply gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned, gone, as if it had never existed. The data logs from the last moments before the blackout were filled with nothing but static and one final chilling message: they are coming. Panic spread among the highest ranks of the military. The Galactic Council demanded the artifact be destroyed immediately, warning that humanity had awakened something far beyond their understanding. But the scientists refused. They argued that this was humanity's greatest discovery, proof of an ancient race that had vanished without a trace. If they could unlock its secrets, they could uncover knowledge lost for eons. They could learn the fate of the first ones. But what no one realized was that learning the truth might cost them everything. The artifact pulsed one final time, and the entire station shook. For a brief moment, every screen displayed the same horrifying image: a planet, massive and lifeless, covered in the ruins of a once great civilization. Towering cities turned to dust, colossal structures shattered, and the sky above it dark, empty, and cold. The translation program finished decoding the last message imprinted into the artifact's surface. The words sent a shiver through every human who read them. We were the first. And we were erased. The Terran Defense Fleet had been monitoring deep space anomalies for decades, but nothing had ever disturbed them like this. The return of Odin 7 had already sparked fear, and the discovery of the artifact had only made things worse. Now, with entire outposts vanishing without a trace, humanity was beginning to realize that something was watching them. Something that had remained hidden for eons, waiting. The military scrambled to make sense of the reports. Patrol ships sent to investigate missing stations found nothing: no wreckage, no escape pods, no distress signals. It was as if those stations had never existed. Only one thing remained the same in every case: strange energy readings, almost imperceptible, lingering like an unseen shadow in the void. Captain Elias Drake of the TNS Valor had seen his fair share of anomalies, but this was different. The fleet's orders were clear: investigate the growing disappearances, find answers, and report back. But as Valor approached the last known coordinates of Outpost Epsilon, Drake felt something was wrong. The station was supposed to be there, orbiting a barren moon at the edge of known space. Instead, all that remained was darkness. No lights, no signals. The station's transponder was still active, but the structure itself was gone. As if it had been wiped from existence, the crew scanned the area, searching for debris, but there was nothing, just a hollow silence stretching across the void. Then, the lights flickered. At first, it was barely noticeable, a small power fluctuation, a harmless glitch. But then the ship's systems began acting strangely. Weapons sensors detected phantom targets that weren't there. Security cameras showed brief glimpses of movement, shadows darting through empty corridors. The communications array picked up fragmented whispers, voices speaking in no known language. The engineers tried to blame it on interference from the artifact, but deep down, everyone on board knew the truth. They weren't alone. Something was here. Without warning, the ship's proximity alarms blared. The crew rushed to their stations, expecting an enemy fleet, but the readings made no sense. There were no ships, no physical objects, nothing visible to the naked eye, yet something was moving around them. The sensors registered shifting gravitational distortions, as if invisible structures were gliding through space, circling them like unseen predators. It was impossible. No known technology could hide a fleet this effectively. But then the crew realized the terrifying reality: this wasn't technology. This was something else. The ship's AI tried to enhance the sensor feed, and for a fraction of a second, the crew saw it: a shape in the void. Not a ship. Not a creature. Something worse. It was massive, stretching into the darkness like a living shadow, its form shifting and impossible to fully comprehend. It was there for only a moment before fading back into nothingness. But that moment was enough. It had seen them. Drake knew they had to leave. Whatever was out there, it had remained hidden for a reason, and humanity had just disturbed it. He ordered an immediate retreat, but before Valor could jump to FTL, the ship's systems crashed. The entire vessel shuddered, as if some invisible force had latched onto it. The crew struggled to regain control, alarms flashing as power flickered dangerously low. Then, through the ship's speakers, a sound came: a low, distorted whisper that sent ice through their veins. It wasn't a language. It wasn't a transmission. It was a warning. The bridge descended into chaos as crew members reported strange occurrences. One officer claimed to see something standing at the edge of the command deck, a tall, featureless figure that vanished when he blinked. Another swore he heard voices whispering his name from the ship's ventilation system. Then, one of the security officers collapsed, his breathing shallow, his skin unnaturally cold. Medics rushed to him, but their scanners detected nothing wrong. His body was there, but something else, something unseen, had taken him. With no other choice, Drake initiated emergency protocols. They had to jump, no matter the risk. He forced the ship's engines into overdrive, pushing the FTL drive beyond its safety limits. The ship groaned under the strain, the unseen force still clinging to them like a predator refusing to release its prey. Then, at the last possible moment, the engines surged. A burst of energy ripped through the ship, sending them hurling into hyperspace. When Valor emerged back into normal space, they were light years away. The ship was battered, its systems barely functional, but they were alive. The whispers had stopped. The shadows were gone. Whatever had been stalking them had let go for now. Drake sent an immediate distress signal to Earth, warning them that something was out there, something that had stayed hidden for untold centuries. The Galactic Council's response was swift and predictable. Cease all investigations immediately. Do not attempt contact. Destroy all evidence. But it was already too late. Humanity had seen the silent stalkers. And now, they knew that humanity existed, The research station orbiting Titan was unlike any other. It was built in complete secrecy, hidden from both the public and the Galactic Council. Only the highest-ranking officials of the Terran Defense Fleet knew of its existence. It had one purpose: to unlock the secrets of the artifact. Ever since Odin 7 had returned carrying something far beyond human understanding, scientists had worked tirelessly to decipher its mysteries. But no matter how much they studied it, one truth remained: the artifact was not dead. It pulsed with an unknown energy, its shifting symbols almost seeming to respond to their presence. Dr. Helena Graves, the lead researcher, had spent months analyzing it, convinced that it was more than just a relic. It was a key to something ancient, something lost in time. And tonight, that key was about to turn. The moment it happened, it was subtle at first. A low hum filled the research lab, so faint it was almost imperceptible. The energy readings spiked, but just for a fraction of a second. Then, the containment field flickered. The lights dimmed. Every screen in the facility flashed the same cryptic message, written in symbols that no human could understand. But even without translation, the meaning was clear. They are waking. Before anyone could react, the station shook. Not from an external attack, but from something inside. The artifact pulsed violently, sending waves of energy through the walls. Alarms blared, and emergency protocols activated, sealing off sections of the facility. Scientists scrambled to contain the surge, but nothing worked. Dr. Graves watched in horror as the symbols on the artifact began to change, not random shifts like before, but deliberate, structured movements. It wasn't just reacting. It was communicating. And then, for the first time, a voice echoed through the station's speakers. It was not human. The voice was layered, distorted, as if multiple beings spoke at once. It carried a weight that sent chills through every scientist in the room. It spoke in a language that no translation program could decipher, yet, somehow, deep in their minds, they understood. It was a message from something impossibly old, something that had waited far too long. The last war was never finished. You have broken the silence. The forgotten will rise again. Then, the screaming started. In the lower levels, the containment team monitoring the artifact collapsed, clutching their heads. Some convulsed violently, while others simply stopped moving. Their eyes, wide with terror, stared into something that no one else could see. The security feeds cut out, replaced by static, but for a brief moment, just before the blackout, one image flashed on every screen: a ruined world, a graveyard of towers that once touched the sky, and shadows moving between them, watching. Panic spread through the station. Communications with Earth went dead. Every attempt to shut down the artifact failed. And then, as the emergency lights flickered, something changed. The station's artificial gravity shifted, not lost, not malfunctioning, but altered. It was as if something unseen was walking through the halls, bending reality itself. Footsteps echoed where no one stood. Shadows stretched in impossible directions. And somewhere, deep in the restricted zones, a door opened on its own. Dr. Graves knew then that this was no accident. The artifact had never been just a key. It was a beacon, a call to something that had been waiting in the dark. The forgotten were not some lost civilization wiped from history. They were still here, buried beneath the ruins of time, trapped in a prison that humanity had just unlocked. The last transmission from the Titan research station was garbled, distorted by the interference flooding the system. But the final words, barely audible through the static, carried across the void, reaching every listening post in the Terran colonies. They are awake, and they are coming. The galaxy had always underestimated humanity. The old empires called them reckless, a primitive species that had risen too fast, too eager to expand beyond their small blue world. The Galactic Council believed that humanity could be controlled, that they would fall in line like so many others before them. But when the XL, their dominion, sent their armada to conquer Earth, they made a fatal mistake. They assumed humanity would submit. The attack came without warning. One moment, Earth was peaceful, its fleets patrolling the outer colonies, unaware of the storm that was coming. Then, the sky burned. Massive warships, each the size of a city, emerged from hyperspace, unleashing destruction upon the Terran defenses. Space stations were obliterated before they could even send distress signals. The orbital fleets, caught off guard, fought desperately, but they were outnumbered, outgunned. The first few hours were a massacre. The XLR forces, confident in their overwhelming power, expected Earth to surrender. They sent a single message, broadcasted to every human colony, every surviving warship. Accept your place. Your world belongs to us now. But humanity did not kneel. Admiral Jonas Carter, commanding what remained of the Terran Defense Fleet, stood on the bridge of TNS Valiant, watching as the enemy fleet surrounded Earth. Every logical analysis said they had no chance. The Dominion had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years, crushing countless civilizations beneath their rule. But humanity had never cared for logic when it came to survival. Carter looked at his officers, his soldiers each one ready to fight to the last breath. The message from the Dominion played on the command deck's main screen, demanding surrender. Carter gave his response with a single word: no. And with that, humanity's defiance began. The counterattack was immediate and brutal. Every remaining Terran warship, from the smallest corvettes to the heavily damaged dreadnoughts, launched a desperate assault. The sky turned into a battlefield of fire and metal, human ships diving into enemy formations, sacrificing themselves to break the Dominion's lines. The XLR, for the first time in their long history, saw something they had never faced before: an enemy that refused to break, that fought not for conquest, but for survival. The battle raged for hours, then days. The Dominion's forces bombarded Earth's surface, expecting the cities to crumble. But from the ruins, resistance rose. Civilians took up arms, fighting in the streets against enemy ground forces. Every ruined building became a fortress, every street a battlefield. The enemy had expected surrender. Instead, they found hell. But it wasn't just desperation that fueled humanity. It was strategy. Hidden deep beneath the mountains, in underground bunkers built for this very moment, Terran scientists activated the last weapon the Dominion never saw coming: Project Revenant. A technology so dangerous, so unpredictable, that even humanity had feared using it. But now, there was no choice. The order was given, and the tide of war changed. The Dominion's warships, once untouchable, suddenly found their shields failing, their weapons turning against them. Their communications jammed, their engines shut down. It was as if the very fabric of space had turned against them. And then, from the darkness, something else emerged. Terran stealth cruisers, equipped with the very technology the Dominion believed impossible: ships that moved unseen, striking like ghosts. The enemy, for the first time in their long history, felt fear. The XLR warlord, watching from his command vessel, could not understand what was happening. This was not how it was supposed to be. Humanity was supposed to surrender. They were supposed to kneel. Instead, his forces were burning, his fleet falling apart. The warlord sent a final demand for peace, offering terms of submission. But humanity did not answer. The TNS Valiant, leading the final charge, broke through the Dominion's flagship defenses. Admiral Carter, with fire in his eyes and vengeance in his heart, gave the final order. The last human torpedoes, modified with the power of Project Revenant, struck the enemy's command vessel. The warlord's last thoughts were not of victory, but of terror, as his ship was consumed by an explosion brighter than the sun. The battle was over. Humanity had won. The wreckage of the Dominion's fleet drifted through space. The surviving Terran forces stood victorious. They had been outnumbered, outmatched. And yet, they had defied the impossible. The message was clear: humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not surrender. And now, the galaxy knew what it had awakened.